This is a very short introduction to science of economics, and I also call it scientific economics. It is a breakthrough in economic theory, and we are trying to change the world by economic theory. What will be covered in this short introduction? Basically, I got people ask me what this scientific economics is about. But those people don't have time to go through 40, 50 lectures to learn the whole theory, but they want to have an overview. So this presentation is made to serve that purpose, to give you an overview, the basic concept idea behind this theory. This lecture introduces the fundamental concept of economics, of scientific economics, and I will outline the methodology of the scientific economics. I will not provide any formal proofs or follow through all the deduction process to prove to you any laws of this scientific economics. For comprehensive understanding, please go through the complete lecture material, and I will post it in text format and in video format on the website. The discussion will focus on selection of key laws that has broader impact. There are totally right now, there's totally 16 or 17 laws I discovered. I will, in this short introduction lecture, will present you maybe 4 or 5, 6 laws. Okay. What is scientific economics? And it revolutionized the economics. It is a scientific paradigm shift and unique academic offering. Scientific economics is not yet part of any university curriculum. It's a pioneering and transformative field of study. So basically, if you ask any economist to review this, you probably get answers say, this is not my area, I'm not interested. Or they have some other feelings that they don't want to tell you. Okay. So it's kind of hard for someone in different school of thought to evaluate this because they have no knowledge of this approach. An advanced theoretical framework offers a more rigorous and comprehensive understanding of economic theory than conventional model. Scientific rigor, each economic law adhere to 4 fundamental criteria for scientific validity, ensuring consistency, testability, universality, and explanatory power. The resolution of economic paradox systematically solve contradictions embedded in the mainstream economic theories, including paradox within the labor theory of value and the inconsistencies in the market equilibrium theory. And the vision for progress provides for the foundation blueprint for shaping future society, structured through law-based, empirical, grounded principle. Is economics a science? Contrasting the mainstream and the scientific economics. And there are two schools of thinkings about mainstream economics. And one group of economists believe that our mainstream economics is not science. But the other group of economists believe strongly that economics is science. And the reason for this is that they believe current mainstream economics use scientific methodologies. Like they collect data from economics, unemployment rate, inflation rate, growth rate, blah, blah. Then they will use a scientific methodology. They use regressions, machine learnings, curve fittings, all different tools to find their relationship and how one parameter may influence the other. And so they use modern research techniques. So for this group of economists, mainstream economics is a science. However, mainstream economists often fail to meet rigorous scientific standards due to unresolved paradox or inconsistent methodology. I believe the mainstream economics is not science. The reason is clear. We can't say economics is science simply because they're using so-called scientific methodology, because those scientific methodology can be used for any non-science field, and you can study astrology with it, you can study religion with it, and many other areas. So whether you use scientific methodology to do research is irrelevant in determining whether the subject is science or not. For me, the most important fact that determine if this study, the discipline of economics is a science or not, relies on the fact that whether you can derive laws of science that meets strict criteria that can be called science. Why scientific economics qualify as science? So I just said that mainstream economics is not science. But why do I say scientific economics qualifies as science? Because in here, I deducted 16, 17 laws. All these laws meet the conditions, the criteria to be scientific. So let's come to the third point. Scientific economics adheres to 4 essential criteria for scientific validity. Number 4 is resolve the paradox in mainstream economics theory, including those in labor theory of value and market equilibrium. 5th, it provides coherent, evidence-based framework for understanding economic phenomena. The conclusion is that scientific economics establishes itself as a true science, while mainstream economics remains very limited by its non-scientific foundation. From observation to law, rethinking economics foundations. Mainstream economics is using inductive and behavior-dependent approach. The central question is, how does the market work? And they're trying to link all the parameters to find the relationship. It focuses on describing how scarce resources are allocated to maximize human well-being. Rely on inductive reasoning using curves, functions built from observed behavior, vulnerable to falsification due to behavior variabilities. I just gave you some examples for this statement to try and so you can understand what I just said. What does it mean? Say economic. One conclusion they got from in textbook is say in economics there's no free lunch. Actually, you can easily falsify this by just offering free lunch. Actually, many churches or events give free lunch for people just by passing by. So in reality, this statement is already falsified. And also inflation predictions. Say economy predict inflation. Say this year, say they predicted 2 years ago that year 2025, the inflation will be 3%. However, you never know. Every parameters that you predict in economics is subject to human behavior changes. For example, this year, in the year 2025, the President Trump decided to start a trade war and dramatically increase the tariff, which will trigger the inflation increase. So what I'm saying is this kind of approach that when you establish a relationship or some conclusions, because all these conclusions are subject to the change or decisions makings of the government. So they're very easily can be falsified. They're not scientific. Conclusions shift with policy changes, cultural norms, and psychological trends. So all this can change the output. So you get a conclusion or of some kind of an economic variable relationship. It may fit your country fine, but if you apply this relationship to the other country or some other culture, it may not be fine because their decision-making, psychological trends, cultural norms, they're all different, and that will break your funding. So that's why mainstream economics will not get scientific conclusion, so they're not to be called science. Let's talk about scientific economics. That's what we are talking about here, trying to get you the idea what scientific economics is. In scientific economics, we use deductive reasoning, and it's a law-based approach. The central question is how should the economy operate in order to achieve maximum economic efficiency to serve, to better satisfy human needs. So the question is different. We emphasize what should be done. How should the economy work to get this point, to maximize efficiency? So this conclusion of this kind of to answer this question is objective. It's not subject to human decision changes. So in this way, it could be scientific. And this scientific economic employs deductive reasoning to derive objective economic laws. The laws are invariant to changes in human behavior or government policy, such as tariff. Establish stable universal framework for economic analysis and design. Global prosperity through scientific economics. Full employment and crime reduction. Now, in this slides, I want to imagine what will be like, what kind of society will we have if we accept this economic theory and the scientific economics, if we use it to in our reality to manage our economy, and what the global future society will look like. And this future society will have the following features, so you can imagine. For employment, right now the United States has like 7 million people out of work, and they couldn't find work. So the problem is not their fault. It's the economy. It's not managed in a scientific way to create jobs. So in the future, when we use scientific economics, we can reach full employment. Because of full employment, the crime rate will dramatically reduce. As we know, poverty and crime is related. When people don't have jobs, they don't have income, they don't have nothing to do, and they don't have money to survive, so they end up doing crimes. So with full employment, we can naturally imagine that the society will have less crime rate. Unlimited infrastructure investment enable continuous funding for world-class infrastructure in every nation. Imagine today, every country has a problem. What a problem is that they want better infrastructure. They want better roads. They want high-speed trains. But the problem is they don't have money to invest in infrastructure. Look at the U.S. Almost every country you can look at, there are needs for infrastructure investment. For U.S., the roads are getting worse, and the bridges are collapsing, and there are some statistics say maybe 40% of U.S. bridges needs either major repair, or new construction to rebuild. So why U.S. is lag behind in the infrastructure construction? Because there's no money. And with scientific economics, this problem is solved. We provide you with unlimited funding for it. The third point is accelerated scientific progress. Provide boundless resources for research and innovation across discipline. Global monetary harmony allows all nations to accumulate unlimited foreign exchange reserve, eliminating trade wars and currency conflicts. Right now, we have a trade war in 2025. Trump wants to seek a trade balance for the United States. It's very understandable because trade imbalance means that U.S. imports more and selling less. Then U.S. capacity for production decreases. However, in this new scientific economics, you will have global monetary harmony because every country can have a trade surplus at the same time. This is contrary to traditional thinking. They don't believe this is possible. I will show you in scientific economics how this can possibly achieve. Enhance the corporate profitability, boost profit margin through optimized resource allocation and systematic efficiency. In the traditional economic thinking, if you improve economic efficiency and corporate profit increases, and nevertheless you're going to have to increase the income disparity. Well, in here I prove you the otherwise. We can achieve both goals at the same time. We can improve the economic efficiency and at the same time increase the corporate profitability. Universal access to higher education, and this is another area that many governments have no money to invest in to provide a higher education to people. So this economics solve that problem. So we continue to look at what the future society will be under scientific economics. Affordable housing for all. Under the scientific economics, there is a systematic reduction in housing cost through labor-based mortgage financing and full employment. Because of full employment, people all have income. Then because the labor hour-based mortgage, which dramatically reduces the mortgage you have to pay to buy your house. So you only have to pay a fraction of the cost. Maybe today you pay $4,000. Maybe under this new system you only pay $2,000 or $1,500. So the reduction in the cost of housing will bring a housing boom. Every family will be able to afford a larger house. What comes with it is when you have a larger house, you have more rooms, and everybody has a job. They will buy more gadgets, and the consumer demand will increase. Next item is reduction in wealth inequality. I already touched through it through the optimized resource allocation. That under this scientific economics, we can achieve both efficiency improvement, corporate profit rate increase, and reduce the income disparity. Accelerated income growth. Because we will have sustained annual increase in workforce earning driven by enhanced productivity and efficiency. Because we improved productivity and efficiency, so with full employment, the economic growth rate will be higher than we currently experience. So if we currently typically experience 1 to 2% economic growth rate for a nation, under this scientific economics, you probably will experience double that. The economic growth maybe 4% or 6%. Maximize economic efficiency. I touched that point also. Structural reform eliminate waste and misallocation, yielding substantial gains in output and welfare. Supranational monetary integration is adoption of a supra-sovereign international currency, stabilize global trade and the monetary system, and universal foreign reserve accumulation. This is enabling all countries to simultaneously build unlimited foreign reserve and foreign exchange, eliminating zero-sum competition and trade conflict. Key paradox in mainstream economics theory. Now, why do I have to add this slides here? The point is the existing mainstream economic theories, any school of thought we ran into in the past, have flaws in their theoretical thinking. And this is one way to prove that the scientific economics is science, because in scientific economics we solved all the paradoxes that we present here. In the real lecture we present more paradox, but for limited time I'm going to present only very limited paradox just to illustrate in major areas that we find contradictions in their theory and thinking. One is a labor theory of value paradox. One is paradox is well known. It's the contradiction between value of new versus the aged one, highlights inconsistencies in assigning labor-based value. The basic thinking of this is that according to the labor theory of value, the value of one should be determined by how much labor value they use to produce it. So the labor value when the wine is produced is fixed. So say this wine costs $25. So today, then 30 years later, then it should still be roughly, if it's converted to the labor value, it should have the same labor value. Put this way, say the one is a $30 manufactured today. That is equivalent to 2 labor hours. Maybe 30 years later, the one grow to some big number, $500, $1,000. But when you convert that dollar amount to labor value, according to labor value, it should still be roughly 2 labor hours. But the reality is different. The wine appreciates its value significantly. A good wine can sell many times more. What that means is maybe 20, 30, 40 years later, the same wine produced today that costs 2 labor hours, but at 30 years later, it may cost 100 labor hours. So this is a contradiction that the labor theory value cannot solve. And in scientific economics, we solve all these paradoxes. Marginal utility paradox. The exchange value determined by marginal utility conflicts with the coexistence of multiple marginal utility for a single commodity price. There is a theory that says the price of an exchange value is determined by the marginal utility. Yes, the last goods you consume or some. So, however, we for example, for a sandwich, for example, we have millions of consumers for sandwiches. Are you saying that the marginal exchange value, my marginal value determine the exchange value between the price of a sandwich, or your marginal value? Because each person is different, right? Each person has different utility functions, and their marginal utility is different. So there's no way everybody has the same marginal utility. So if a marginal value is a determining factor, it determines the price of goods, then we should have for each sandwich, we should have millions of prices, because you are facing millions of consumers. So this is a paradox that marginal utility couldn't solve. The next one is the market equilibrium paradox. The assumption is that some economists, using fancy equations, equilibrium equations, they calculate. Their conclusion is the market, as long as free trade and reach equilibrium, and so under market equilibrium, all the resource gets allocated efficiently without government intervention. This is a contradict. Okay. This is the same thinking as Adam Smith believed that there's an invisible hand can allocate resource efficiently. In that thinking, and you certainly don't need government. The government is going to mess up with a good market economy. But the reality is that we see every government has tremendous, huge number of laws made to regulate the economy, right? And from financial market, if you don't regulate, it's a big mess. and from education, that almost every government have laws or regulations, administrations managing education to provide compulsory educations for elementary school, high school, middle school, then the higher education. Most countries provide fundings for higher educations. Now, if the market is so good without government intervention, should effectively allocate all the resources efficiently, why does the government involve here? And you are saying one words and claim that the market should be left alone because once it can reach equilibrium and can get a better resource allocation. But on the other side, you're set up all these laws regulated and give us fundings for higher education. And what can we say? You are not thinking straight, right? In government, so you can't think both ways. So this is a contradiction. So only the scientific economics can solve all these theoretical paradoxes. Next, I introduce the criteria for demarcation of scientific economic laws. To derive economic laws of scientific, and first we need to understand what is the scientific laws. So this 4 criteria is what I got to measure criteria to see if a law we derive, if a conclusion we discover is scientific or not. Okay, the first is, of course, we are doing economics. The first one is resource allocation. The law needs to address or contributes to resolving the challenging of optimal resource allocation in economic system. That is, it must be able to help us to improve economic efficiency to reach maximum. The second is falsifiability. The law must be able to stand to empirical test, and must be testable and capable of being disproven through observation or experimentation. So if the conclusion is already falsified, has counterexample, then it's not science. Or if your conclusion cannot be tested and your conclusion is saying both ways, there's no way to falsify this conclusion, then that's not science either. Explanatory and predictive power. The law needs to explain the historical economic phenomenon and enable us to predict of the future outcome. The fourth criteria is logical derivation. Ideally, the law should be derived from coherent logical deductive system. This way is more rigor, is more solid. Of course, you can get some kind of law by using observation and the inductive method, like what Darwin did for the species revolution and his theory. And he did a lot of observations for plants and animals, and he got conclusion that the species are evolving. It's evolution over time. So, of course, his theory we believe is right, but it is facing more challenges right now. So it's better to have a theory like how Newton gets his Newton's law of three laws that can be used to solve all the other physics issues. So here we have the 4 criteria that marks a demarcation. That is demarcation for the scientific law. So all the laws we will present pass the 4 criteria. So it means that they meet the requirement to be scientific laws. Let's talk about what is economic efficiency, the definition and the interpretation. Economic efficiency is total consumer utility divided by the total number of labor hours. So what we're trying to do is to, with a given number of labor hours input, we're trying to produce the maximum consumer utilities. How to do that? We through producing more goods and service that consumer needs to satisfy their needs and wants. The ratio captures how much the consumer satisfaction is generated per unit of labor input. It's a productive measure. Productivity measurement is measured from the consumer's perspective. The implication is a higher value means the economy is achieving more utility for each labor hour invested, suggesting better allocation of labor toward higher utility goods and service. The other way to present this economic efficiency concept is economic efficiency by labor hour. Labor hour per goods. This labor hour per goods can be presented by total labor hour used to produce the goods divided by the quantity produced. Imagine how many, say, bottle of water you produce, and say you produce 1 million bottled waters a year, and how much labor hour you put in there, and divided, then you get per how much labor hour you use per goods. Maybe you use 0.1 labor hour per bottle of water. This is an indicator of economic efficiency, because if you reduce the labor hour used to produce, say, 1 bottle of water, and you improve the economic efficiency. This gives the interpretation that this gives the average labor hour input required to produce 1 unit of output. The implication is a lower value indicates higher production efficiency for the good. Socially necessary labor hour. Labor hour we are talking about, of course, is the labor we put in for the production. The value of our labor is defined as average socially necessary labor hour, a standardized unit presenting the time required under a typical condition of skill, technology, and productivity. For simplicity, we refer this unit as labor hour throughout the discussion. Not all labor hours are created equal. If a PhD economist, 1 labor hour may equal to 2 or more, or maybe 100, due to specialization or knowledge and productivity. And a business executive labor hour could be more than 2 labor hours per hour. So it's not a strict 1-to-1 labor hour translation when we count socially necessary labor hour. Because a businessman's decision owner reflect his skill and to manage business and decision-making impact. So this framework allowed us to normalize labor hour contribution to cross diversifications. Labor input, the sole economic resource. In the mainstream economics, almost everything is considered economic resource. Machines, materials, energy, anything. In scientific economics, we only consider human labor as the economic resource. The reason is presented in the previous slides, because human labor is a measurement of the economic efficiency. Because our goal is to improve the economic efficiency, to reach higher productivity. For that reason, you see in the equation, the only input involved is labor input. So the core principle is labor input is the only fundamental economic resource. All other inputs, material, energy, machinery, or secondary input will be translated into labor value. Defining economic efficiency. Efficiency means producing more output, goods or service, using the same labor input, therefore maximizing the satisfaction of consumer demand. Unified metric. To maintain analytical consistency, all production inputs, other inputs will be converted to labor hour, our universal unit of economic value. The first law of economics. This law is the fundamental law for all the other laws. So this is the foundation of the scientific economics. The first law of economics says for the maximum economic efficiency, prices must reflect the labor value of goods and service, ensuring exchange are based on equivalent value or equal exchange of value. The value here we're referring to is labor value of hours. Currency as a commodity is subject to this principle also. When this condition is met, individual profit-driven actions naturally optimize resource allocation, may help the efficiency across the entire economy. Condition for invisible hand. When this condition is met, individual profit-seeking behavior naturally align with the optimal allocation of resources across the economy. No central coordination is required. Efficiency emerges spontaneously from the structure of value itself. This law establishes the necessary condition for a scientifically grounded economy, one in which decentralized action produce system-wide optimization through the enforcement of labor value equivalency. Since I don't provide proof for this, but I'm going to give some intuition, help you understand how this, how do I get this, and the thinking behind this first law. I'm going to give you some thought experiment for you to think about. First, say you're a farmer. You're going to build your a small bridge near your house over a small creek. And how do you make a decision to build? You have say you have different material you can use. You can use wood, you can use steel, you can use plastic, right? And each involves different labor hours. So a farmer, naturally, if you're the farmer, you're going to choose the one least expensive to you. So when you choose the expensive material and you hope to save your hours, save your time, Think about this, if you are a self-sufficient farmer, you build this, you don't need any other material, just cut woods from a nearby tree. But you have 3 trees, different plants, but will involve different cost. One maybe the bridge maybe needs 100 hours, the other needs 200 hours, the other needs 300 hours. Suppose the bridge gives you the same utility, then you're certainly not going to use the 300 hours to build a bridge. You're going to choose the one using 100 hours. That's the idea behind the law, is you are actually, when you make a decision, you are trying to save your own labor. When you make a decision, when you are knowing you're the one doing the work, you know the labor hour, you can do estimate, and you make an intelligent decision. But when you rely on society to provide the material, other options, if you build a bridge using other materials, steels, others, you have to rely on the society to provide, and you only maximize your gain, which means you minimize your cost. When you do this, and we hope you also minimize the total labor hour used in your building process, right? So, because through the equation before I show you, the economic efficiency is you have to reduce the total labor used. But the labor is used by other people produce steel or plastic. And how do you know how much they use to produce those? You don't know. You only know is the price of the goods. So that price of the goods needs to reflect the labor value that they use to produce either the steel or plastic or other material used to build the bridge. So this is one example. The other example is, say, a housewife buying a backpack for his son to go to high school. Suppose you have 3 different backpacks, and the wife will buy the same quality. Say the 3 backpacks are the same quality, and she's going to choose one that saves his cost and the least expensive one. So, to make sure that when she chooses the least expensive backpack for his son, his decision also maximize the economic efficiency for the whole economy. We need the backpack, the price, reflect the labor value used to produce the backpack. So that's why it's important. The price needs to reflect the labor value used to produce it. The other way to present this law is to say the exchange must happen when both goods exchange hands. It has the equal value. The other example is the government build a bridge. It's the same as the bridge you build on a farmer. He can build a bridge. It's a plastic bridge or composite material or bridge or use concrete. But for whatever material he use, and he's trying to save, to pick an option that is least expensive. Let's assume they give the same utility and the life use for the bridge. Then we need those materials. The price of those options reflect the labor value actually used to produce those. So because the last example for you to think is we're using laptops and computers. Those are very complex equipment. They involve hundreds of thousands of components and subcomponents. And in order for this laptop to the price to reflect the labor value of it produce. All the other transactions has to adhere to the first law, has to be equal exchange value or equivalent exchange of value. Because only in this way, when the builder built this laptop, the company built it, he will also get the correct labor value be reflected in the final product. We already know the first law of economics. From the first law of economics, we can derive the second law of economics. To achieve maximum economic efficiency, the economy needs to move to this condition. So basically, this condition specifies the condition that an economy can reach maximum economic efficiency. So in this equation, you see that there's I, that stands for inflation rate, and S, labor productivity growth rate. L is the growth rate of monetary value per labor hour. That basically is the wage growth rate. And P is the profit rate and interest rate. Notice that the inflation rate and the productivity growth rate is in the same position. Basically, they can change position without affecting the results. The intuition behind the interest rate and the inflation rate. I will explain in this slide why do we need inflation rate and why do we need interest rate when there's inflation. So suppose at the start of the year that one labor hour is presented by $10. That's the first row there. In the end of the year, suppose $11 presents one labor hour. And the third row, you borrow from bank, say at the beginning of the year, and you borrow $100. That actually represents that 10 labor hours. And you need to return to the bank at the end of the year. How much you need to return? You need to return, according to the first law of economics, you need to have equal exchange of value. So when you borrow 10 labor hour, you need to return 10 labor hour back to the bank. So in the end of the year, you will return $110. You will return $10 more. Why? Because as you see in the second row there, and end of the year, one labor hour is presented by 11. One labor hour is equivalent to $11. So you times 11 times the 10 labor hours, and you get $110. So the actual money you pay, you return to bank is the interest rate. The interest rate is calculated in the last row here. Is 110 minus $100. That's $10. So the $10 is the interest you paid to the bank. Now interest, according to the second law of economics, the interest or profit is necessary so that goods can be exchanged with equal labor value. The intuition behind the profit rates and productivity growth rate. When I equals to 0, I is the inflation rate. When the inflation rate is 0, which means that the price of the goods in the economy is basically no change, then in our model, we only consider one goods, and in the real situation, you may have millions of goods. Then the S in that situation, based from the second law equation, S equals R equals to P. What that stands for is the productivity growth rate equals to the R is the interest rate and P is the profit rate. Let's think through an thought experiment of an economy. P and R is the transit for the period when the S is larger than 0, meaning that when the productivity is gone, is larger than 0, then we see the profit and R, P and R larger than 0. But if the S is 0, then the other has to be 0 in the end. When productive growth rate is larger than 0%, the paper currency is devalued. Therefore, it has the same effect as inflation. So in this in this slide, and at the beginning of the year, an economic realized output is 100. This is the quantity of the output. The output in dollar is $1,000. And you see the labor hour input used to produce the output is 100 labor hours, and the dollar divided by labor hour is 10. So you have output that is totally $1,000 because we have a 100 labor hour input and divided by 100. So each labor hour gets $10 output. Okay, and that's at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, because of the productivity improvement, so we assume in this thought experiment that the economic realized output increased from 100 accounts to 110. So there's a 10% increase here. And the output in dollar, so because the price hasn't changed, so you can calculate the price will be $10 each. So $10 each times 110, that's 1,100. So the labor input hasn't changed, it's still 100 labor hours, and the dollar divided by the labor hour is 1,100 divided by 100 labor hour. That comes the $11. What does the $11 means is that the labor hour, one labor hour is at the end of the year is presented by $11. So $11 is equivalent to 1 labor hours, while at the beginning it was $10 for 1 labor hour. So you see that there is equivalent change as the effect is the same as the inflation. If you only look at the last column, there's no difference. Okay, we have we got the first law and the second law of economics, and we know how the parameters should be so that we can reach maximum economic efficiency or the best allocation of resources. And then the question is, how do we possibly can achieve that? Because nobody knows what the labor hour is. Consumer don't see it, manufacturer don't see it. Who's going to see it? Nobody sees it. So how do we supposed to, we can't have someone hire someone to measure, say, well, this cheese is, has embedded labor hour is 1, and the car was manufactured with 5,000 labor hour. We can't really hire someone to calculate that and figure that out. So how do we do that? So I studied the market, and it turned out the market can help us to achieve the equal exchange value. So let's state the third law of economics. Equivalent exchange or equal exchange value, labor value, is achieved through efficient markets, where prices will move toward the equal labor value via market mechanism, ensuring optimal resource allocation. Inefficient markets hinders this process, reducing economic efficiency. Government therefore must regulate and reform inefficient markets to improve economic efficiency. Well, how to realize equal exchange of value? Okay, the efficient market is a way that allows us, we can use efficient markets to help us to realize equal exchange value, so that the condition that we described in the second law and the first law can hold. Okay, the condition for efficient market condition, and I summarize the 7 conditions. First is freedom choice, producer and consumer, including intermediate consumers like business, freely determine production and consumption decisions based on their preference and incentives. So basically, they have freedom to decide what to produce, what to purchase, what to consume. Second, profit motivations. At least some market participants are driven by material gains, incentivizing efficient resource allocation. What this says is, well, on the market, there may be less selfish people who are willing to sacrifice and sell goods at a lower price, but overall, people should be, most of people or some people on the market which are profit-driven and self-interest-driven to participate in the market exchange. Third is perfect information. Producers have full access to information about other producers' activities, like cost, output, profit. Consumers have competitive knowledge of goods and services, such as price, quality, and availability. Well, this perfect information, of course, you can argue that in the real world, the information is not perfect, but we should, as a goal, we should promote transparency or some kind of perfect information situation. The reason is that for the perfect market to work, and one producer has to know whether the other producer make more profit than he does. So this way, to attract producers from manufacturers who make less profit, move into more profit line of business. This is how the market works. If we, as a producer, if nobody knows other producer how profitable they are, they're going to not to be incentive. They don't have the incentive to move. Say the hotel becomes a more profitable business. If nobody knows that's the situation, other investors will not invest in the hotel, then the market will not moving toward equilibrium. So that's the idea behind the perfect information. And so does the consumer. To help consumer to reach a maximum economic efficiency is to fully satisfy consumer needs and wants, is that the service or goods produced that consumer must have knowledge about the pricing, the quality, and the availability, and so on. Of course, not all markets are like that, so we need to kind of reform the inefficient market to reach that, to allow consumers to reach better information. I think one of the things that actually the government did is to require labeling on the product. Say, food product has ingredients labeling, and the other things is the more the better, right? You should provide more information about the product, where is it produced, who produced it, and what kind of side effect, and all kind of information. The more the better to help consumer to get a better utility and satisfaction. So this is a goal that the government should try to help achieve. Of course, from the producer point of view, and you can get information about other producers. You can look at their stock markets, and also in the U.S. government has statistics on different lines of business, their profitabilities, and you can check on the government statistics. So that's different ways you can get the information. So this helps the market to function, because the market all depends on the producers moving from less profitable business to more profitable business, and to produce more goods in the more profitable area, so that process is driving down the price to the the price will move to the equilibrium level. That equilibrium level is represents the level of equal exchange of value. So the number 4 is perfect competition. Market prices are set through competitions among numerous buyers, sellers, ensuring price reflecting true labor value and prevent monopolistic distortion. So perfect competition is, of course, the government needs to regulate. No one should be allowed to manipulate market price. They should have a fair competition. Reproducible goods. Goods in efficient market are reproducible, allowing supply to adjust to demand without artificial constraints. So reproducible goods means that, say, most consumer goods today are reproducible goods. Shoes, clothing, and food, they're reproducible goods. But there are goods that are not reproducible. I'm going to give you a couple examples. For example, the postal collectible stamps. Postal stamps as a collectible item. Say people collect 50 or 100 years postal stamps. Those are not reproducible. You can't reproduce them today. Also, aged liquor, wines, and they are not reproducible today. Antique, that's another category, and also famous artist work, paintings produced by someone already, passed away. So those are non-producible examples of non-producible goods. 6, the profit-driven adjustment. Profit rates signal the producer. I already talked about producer to adjust output, dynamically balancing supply and demand. So it's important to allow profit, encouraging producer to profit-seeking business activities. Number 7 is adaptability to demand shifts. Producers have sufficient time to respond to sustained change in effective demand, provided those changes persist beyond the production cycle. What that means is that for the efficient market to work, the manufacturer must have a sufficient time to respond. If there's a crisis in certain area, a natural disasters, there's a huge demand, say, for something, I don't know, for water, but you can't just the water for 3 days needs a huge spike of demand, but the drinking water company will take a longer time to manufacture it. Then this manufacturing cycle, if it's longer than 3 days, then it cannot meet the market demand. That's what that's trying to say. Understanding and applying the third law of economics. How does market move exchange value to labor value of commodity? The market, I already explained some that the market move the price toward the labor value by profit motivation, that the producer will produce more goods supplied to the market when the profit is higher. That will happen in the competitive market. What role does profit play in the marketplace? As I said, that profit is important in the market mechanism. The limitation of invisible hand. Adam Smith has said that the invisible hand in the marketplace, in the market, can efficiently allocate resource. So basically, the government should not get involved with the market. But our third law of economics indicates otherwise, because the invisible hand only works in efficient market. It does not work in inefficient market. functional market, I also call it efficient market, and non-functional market, I call it inefficient market. So there are two types of markets. And the task of economy is to, of course, in the inefficient market, the goods, the exchange value or the price of goods will not move toward labor value of the commodity. So that's where the economy should come in to correct non-functional market, the inefficient market. Examples of inefficient markets including the stock market, medical service market, education exchange rate market, financial market, land market, housing, natural resource market, non-diminishing natural resource like airspace, waterway spectrum, radio spectrum, infrastructure market, etc. So there's many. The fourth law of economics, the optimal exchange rate maximizes economic efficiency. It must be a single rate managed by this formula. So this formula in the E0 is the initial exchange rate for the investment. So we are in the thought experiment, we are thinking about a investor who invests domestically and who also invests in foreign market by first exchange domestic currency to US dollar, then change it back in the end of the year. So so the initial exchange rate at the investment start is the E0, and the ET is the exchange rate at the end of the investment. And so we typically consider 1 year time period for this formula, but of course you can do whatever you want. RD is domestic interest rate, and RF is foreign interest rate. The key conclusion is the foreign exchange market, the exchange rate market is inefficient. Exchange rates do not automatically adjust to optimal level. The optimal rate should generate sufficient reserve to meet market demand under various conditions. And how to manage the reserve is art of management, not science. What that says is that when a government manages the exchange rate, they should also consider the reserve. Make sure you can accumulate enough reserve for your country so that when you need to pay foreign profit rate, foreign profit or any demand for debts or purchasing other foreign goods, you have enough money to do that. Understanding and applying the fourth law of economics. To comply with the first law of economics, exchange rate must be a single exchange rate. And what is a single exchange rate? Most exchange rate we see today, for example, we change US dollar to euro and from euro to US dollar. They're considered a single exchange rate, even though you see the rate is a little bit different between that you change it from US dollar to euro and from euro to the US dollar. There is a little bit of a gap. The gap is actually the cost that the bank has to charge you to provide you this service. They have to make a profit for it. So, but this we still consider this as a single exchange rate. So, contrary to the single exchange rate is what's called multiple exchange rate. And multiple exchange rate happens in China before China's open door policy and the economic reform before 1970 or before 1975 or 76. So at that period of time, China has practiced multiple exchange rate. What do we mean by that is, I don't know exactly I don't remember exactly how it was changed, but here I give you roughly the idea. Is when Chinese yen is changed to a foreign currency, you probably can change to $3. But if you change it back from dollar to Chinese yen, you can change only to, say, $2. So there's a big gap, and the gap is actually set by the government, to purposely set by the government. And this is what we call multiple exchange rate. Of course, China no longer has multiple exchange rate. But today, 2025, the year 2025, and I believe you can search on the website. The last time I have searched, there are still maybe 20-some countries still practicing the multiple exchange rate. And this law, the fourth law of economics, specifically tell you it is wrong. It's unscientific. It hurts your economy to have multiple exchange rate. Most of the countries practicing multiple exchange rates country are often developing countries or less developing countries. So this law is a scientific knowledge to telling those countries you should abandon your multiple exchange rate regime. Okay. Foreign exchange market is an inefficient market. Exchange rate will not gravitate to the equal exchange value. So contrary to the popular mainstream belief that invisible hands, that exchange rate should be left to the market, the law of this, the fourth law of economics tells you that the foreign exchange market is an inefficient market. Therefore, the government should regulate the exchange rate according to the fourth law of economics. To achieve maximum economic efficiency, government must manage foreign exchange rate. Government need to manage exchange rate level so that it can produce sufficient foreign exchange reserve. The fifth law of economics. Economic agents, individual firms and government organizations must bear the cost of their purchase or consumption to achieve equivalent exchange and maximize efficiency. Those who benefit should bear the cost. Now, equivalent exchange is another way to say equal exchange of labor value. In consumption, free or non-equivalent goods or service causes overconsumption or waste. Consumers should pay the necessary labor value for equivalent exchange. The key conclusion, government revenue should not fund infrastructure, instead use long-term investment, pension loans, for example, and also domestic issuing domestic currency. Repayment should be made based on labor value. That is to say, if the infrastructure can last 500 years, and you should pay only 1/500 year, that many depreciation per year. So repay only 1/n of the investment annually, and is the year of the infrastructure life. Banks should offer labor value-based loans for infrastructure to maximize economic efficiency. Intuition and application for the fifth law of economics. Government revenue should not fund infrastructure, instead using long-term investment, as I just said. Then why do we need to do that? Well, the reason is that when we typically fund, say in US, we typically fund infrastructure, a bridge or a road. We typically take out the loans, say maybe 30-year loans, and then pay off with then from the government revenue. The government collect a tax then pay off this over 30 years. So basically, the current user and the 30-year taxpayers of the future 30 years taxpayers is bearing the whole burden of the construction of the bridge or roads. And this is a violation of the fifth law, because the roads can be used, say, 500 years. Who should bear the cost of this construction of the roads? Well, it should be spread out to 500 years. So the future, the people use these roads in the future, in the 500 years. Each year of the 500 years, and they should bear the cost of the investment of the infrastructure, the roads or bridges. So, you only need to, if the road bridge can last 500 years, then you should recoup depreciation should recoup only 1/500 that amount each year to recoup the investment. Instead of right now, it's like maybe a 30-year loan to the investment, and then pay off by the government from revenue. So that's the first thing. This violated the fifth law of economics, and there's two issues. One issue here is the depreciation of the recoup of the investment should spread out evenly by labor hour over 500 years. Okay. The second is, of course, you need to recoup. You get the money to repay for the investment, and the money should come from the usage, or the usage the people use this for example, for roads or highways or bridges. You can recoup the investment by using tire tax, gasoline tax, and so on. So this will help to get the correct way to get money to invest in infrastructure. This way, government is totally out of this infrastructure investment. It's a less burden for the government and more money actually to the infrastructure. And the bank should offer labor value-based loans for infrastructure and the business opportunities. And this is a business opportunity because we don't have this kind of bank, this kind of financial. So it's a business opportunity for someone who to open a new type of lending institutions. The 10th law of economics: full employment is essential for maximum economic efficiency. Solving unemployment requires restoring opportunities for every worker to produce future or forever goods or services, a feature lost in modern market economy. Understanding and applying of the 10th law of economics. What is current goods and what is future and forever goods? Okay. What is the reason for unemployment and how to create unlimited demand for future goods? Okay. Those are good questions. The current goods we are referring to the typical consumer goods or goods that are perishable, that you can store. You cannot save this and use it for 100 years later or 50 years later. Those are current goods. Typically are consumer goods that we purchase, food, furniture, cars, and so on. Okay, current goods. Future or forever goods are goods that can pretty much stay forever once created, and of course we also need to do maintenance. Once we properly maintain those goods, are not only needed by public, but also can stay forever. What are examples of future or forever goods? For example, gold. Gold used to be the money of the international currency. Gold, silver, precious metal. Of course, this is easy to understand. But the other side, the other thing is infrastructure. Infrastructure can include ports, airports, bridges, high-speed rails, trains, and so on. All these are forever goods. It can including bridges, education system, and so on. Education, like university buildings, infrastructure for the university, and so on. Those are forever goods. Now, some people may say, oh, bridges can only last 100 years or 70 years. But you can, if you properly recoup the investment and from user over 100-year time, the bridge can be rebuilt. So once you invest, after your initial investment, and as long as you do proper maintenance and properly recoup those usage fees from users or from landowners, and then the bridge can be rebuilt every 100 years. Then you have a forever bridges. So it's not to say that the bridge will not last forever, but you can always rebuild it with proper systems. So those things, even bridges, can be considered future or forever goods. It will exist forever. The reason for unemployment. Well, what is the reason for unemployment? The reason for unemployment is that we only need 50% people to produce current goods. That is satisfying our needs and wants for current goods consumption. But then because of the productivity improvement and more people will hold their money, will saving. For example, if a country is producing, say, 100 million cell phones, when the cell phone demand decreases and the people no longer use the money to buy cell phones, but instead save in the bank, what happens? The demand for the consumer goods decrease. That is, the current goods consumption decrease. Then, but then people save this money. When people save this money, or the investors will invest in capital stock, but they're actually, that's their savings. They don't consume. So when they put into production or put into banks, so this does not create a current effective demand for current goods. So the only way to produce, so that's the reason that we have unemployment, because people want to save. Either they save for emergency or save for retirement. So for that reason that we have unemployment. How to create unlimited demand for future goods? The way to create a demand for future goods is by opening opportunity to do infrastructure work. Basically, the government should create an infrastructure project so that it can provide all the laborers the opportunity to work on future or forever goods. And this way will solve the unemployment problem, allow the economy to reach full employment, meaning that we eliminate unemployment. The 11th law of economics, dynamic domestic currency issuance. This is talk about how to issue the domestic currency. The first is the currency must be backed by future goods and service to retain value, whether issued in paper or digital form. Newly issued currency must be anchored to future or forever wealth or goods, which may be produced in past, present, or future, but doesn't matter, but must automatically reflect the labor value. There is no natural limit to currency issuance. Central bank may expand the money supply as needed to support economic growth, provided that the issuance remains not tied to labor-based value creation. Third, ideal currency issuance achieves full employment. Unemployed labor is mobilized to produce future or forever goods service. In exchange, workers receive currency, receive payment, and the central bank acquires ownership of the future wealth they generate. The intuition and application of the 11th law of economics. First, I like to talk about the gold production thought experiment, where full employment is achieved and unlimited future of forever goods production opportunity is offered. And let's think about this. Suppose we have an economy where gold is the currency, and we have a gold mine that can employ unlimited laborers. So in that case, that whoever couldn't find a job will go to the gold mine to produce gold, because gold is also currency. So once they produce gold, they can use the gold, this currency, to purchase anything they wanted, like they will consume. Basically, consumer will consume goods using the gold, and in this way, the economy will reach automatically full employment. When people have more gold, the production of consumer goods or machines or other sectors will make more profit because demand for consumer goods increase. Then in the perfect competitive market, more consumer goods, more machines, and more service will be provided. And when they do this, they attract more labor away from the gold production to the manufacture of consumer goods and the service sector. This eventually will reach equilibrium. And in this kind of society, there is no unemployment. Full employment is achieved and guaranteed, because you always have a gold mine there. You can go to work. So what we are currently missing in our current economy, modern market economy, is we are missing this gold mine available not to all workers. Today, however, government can offer infrastructure construction project to all unemployed workers. So this infrastructure investment or even science investment can replace the gold production as the production of a future of forever goods. So in this way, we can reach full employment. And what is wrong with the fiat money, right? Today, most economies use a fiat money. Basically, for example, the Federal Reserve of U.S. Will buy U.S. Treasury bill. Then U.S. government will get money to spend. And the question is, where does the money come from that the Federal Reserve used to buy U.S. Treasury bill? Well, it comes from thin air. Basically, they just punch in a couple of numbers in the computer. So this process, this money is created basically from thin air. It's not anchored to any goods are not based, it's not anchored to any real wealth, not anchored to any future goods or service or forever goods. So this is a violation of the economic law, the first law. So it does not comply with the first law of economics. The correct way to issue domestic currency is to anchor the currency with a future goods or service, such as infrastructure investment, housing investment, science investment, precious metals, etc. The 12th law of economics is international currency issuance. An ideal system uses supranational international currency. Issuance must be backed by future goods, forever goods, and follow equivalent exchange. For example, China building Indonesia highway rail allows Indonesia to receive the highway system for free, while China gains newly issued international currency. Indonesia must adopt the international currency for transaction. Infrastructure exporters like China, who builds infrastructure in other countries, that his foreign reserve should match future consumption pattern. That is, if you consume, say, 10% reserve from country A, then you should try to get a 10% reserve from that country A. The ratio guides the optimal investment infrastructure export decision. Supranational currency avoids the pitfalls of sovereign currency internationalization. That is a trivial dilemma. Allows unlimited wealth accumulation and boosts global efficiency, employment growth, and living standard. The ideal system provides unlimited funding for infrastructure and scientific research, theoretical or primary research, enhance global development. And what is a trivial dilemma? The trap of internationalization of domestic currency. It can lead to the decline of manufacture, overvaluation of domestic currency, and long-term trade deficit. An ideal international monetary system should mitigate each of these challenges. So next I will show you how the 12th law of economics solves a trivial dilemma. Now this dilemma is actually what US dollar get into. Yes, US dollar today is internationalization of domestic currency. It becomes international currency. So US dollar causes a decline of manufacture because it's used as international currency. And the US dollar is overvalued. And also, it creates long-term trade deficit. Understanding the unified global currency, supranational international currency. The issuance of currency is fundamental. A promissory note. Such issuing an international currency implies that one nation owns wealth to the other, establishing a debt relationship between nations. According to the 11th law of economics, the anchor for the promissory note must be future goods, forever goods, or wealth. Specifically, we recommend infrastructure or science investment. The 12th law of economics solves the following challenges. Trivial dilemma, the trap of internationalization of domestic currency. It allows every country to accumulate unlimited foreign reserve, while no country needs to go into trade deficits. Improve infrastructure globally, create jobs in each country. So with this law, the 11th law, the 12th law of economics, and we break the trivial dilemma because no domestic currency is internationalized used as international currency. We will have a supranational international currency which are given to the country who builds infrastructure in the other country, then such creates a debt relationship between the countries. So in this way, we no longer have a driven dilemma that every country in this system can accumulate unlimited exchange of foreign reserve. Well, summary. Scientific economics is governed by 17 laws. Due to time limit, only key laws are presented. These laws enable efficient resource allocation, full employment, unlimited public funding for infrastructure and research, higher corporate profits through system stability, high optimal profit rate, reduced income inequality via full employment and equal exchange value, elimination of trade wars through supranational currency issuance, prevention of recession via predictive economic laws. And this framework replaces ideology with a scientific foundation for a prosperous, resilient society. Advancing humanity through scientific economics. If you are driven by passion for science and a commitment to improving the human condition, I invite you to promote the principle of scientific economics. By disseminating this knowledge, we can contribute to advancing global economic understanding and fostering societal progress. One more last thing before you stop. First, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Second, I'm seeking a teaching position in any university to teach scientific economics. If you are interested, allow me to teach this course. Please contact me. Thank you very much.